Hello, welcome to Sky Sweaty Record Review, episode 129, the only first listen new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after leaving the YMCA. I'm going to be reviewing Flamagra, which kind of sounds like a medication. Speak to your doctor about Flamagra. The name of the album is Flamagra by Flying Lotus. Now, Flying Lotus is another one of these characters. I know I've listened to one of his albums. I think I saw him open up for Radiohead once. I know him as another one of these guys, kind of like Tyler, the Creator, who I reviewed last week. Actually, this album goes quite well with the Tyler, the Creator album. It's just sort of like one of these names that is sort of said in hushed tones. Like, oh, Flying Lotus. Oh, very good. Yes. Oh, yes. But I didn't really know what he did or what he was about. All that I knew is that he was sort of some kind of vaguely hip-hop, techno, electronic, jazz producer. And that's all correct. Whatever my initial take on it was accurate. Now what's funny is this album, Flamagra, has this really insane album cover, which I won't even, just look it up. It's like got like flames in his eyes and mushrooms and weird machines. And it makes me want to buy the vinyl and look at the cover. And the whole album makes me want to buy the album and just listen to it a lot. I wouldn't even say that I liked it. I did like it. But it's not like Injury Reserve, where I listened to it and I just loved it, just right off the bat. This album really feels like it's going to grow on me. And I don't know. Is this the kind of album that wins like all the Grammys? It might be. Or I'm always off on these things. It might just disappear into nothing. It's an amazingly cohesive album track to track. Every track leads into the next one. It's very atmospheric in that way. I guess it's kind of psychedelic because it's weird, but I find that term to be super lazy and I have a lot of problems with it. It's mostly instrumental, but what's weird is that like the genre that I would define it as is fractured funk. Like the tenets of funk music, like just kind of like broken in half and then reconstituted with other elements added in, electronica and jazz and prog music and hip hop, just kind of like break funk and then put it back together so it's weird. And that's what this album is. But somehow it's really consistent all the way through. There's a track way later in the album called Remind You, which is basically like an instrumental classical style song. It sounds like a theme song to like an intimate French movie. But it all fits within this whole album. It all flows. All of the genres, funk, jazz, hip-hop, everything just goes together. A couple artists I've already reviewed are on this album. Toro y Moi has a nice kind of atmospheric, airy, breathy track similar to their album. Anderson .Paak is on here doing his Anderson .Paak-y style rhyming, which is great and interesting and offbeat and very Kendrick Lamar-ish. But what I want to do is, this is a long album, an hour and 7 minutes. And I want to listen to it and give it a lot of time, and I will. And maybe someday in the future, I'll give a long-form review after I buy the album and listen to it for months. But what I want to do is take a 5-song section of the album, right in the middle, and take you through it, and show you how Flying Lotus does whatever the hell Flying Lotus is doing. Because this music is like from outer space. Like, I don't know where he's thinking of putting together all of these. It doesn't sound intentionally weird, but when you just like analyze what he's doing, it's really offbeat. It's really cohesively just fractured. That's the word that keeps on coming up. So I'm going to play you five songs from the middle of the album, starting with track number 9, Pilgrim Side Eyes. What I want you to listen to here is this sort of like this wah-wah synthesizer that's broken down. That's that fractured funk I'm talking about. And then mixed in is like a sort of clicky-clack drums from EDM to this weird sort of instrumental song. Right? Like, kind of building some tension in there. And then the next track after this, do you hear what I'm saying, by the way, about this fractured funk? I'll play a little bit later in the song. You kind of have that kind of funk sound. It's almost like you took like an old P-Funk album and just like scratched the CD and then press play. Then the next track is All Spies, which is almost an EDM song. It kind of has an automated keyboard that goes up fairly simply. See, right? This kind of nice, agreeable instrumental song goes along with that very upsetting previous song. You know, this is just kind of a 4 on the floor EDM song. Right? And they're right next to each other, and they flow into each other, and they feel totally together. The next track is with someone called Tierra Whack, and this is a song called Yellow Belly. And this has this sort of weird kind of faux soul bit in the beginning. It gets kind of trippy. There's these sort of synthesizers that come in. Yeah, it's sort of like kind of weird soul singing. Very unsettling. And then she starts rapping. But it's not like rapping. It's like individual sentences repeated over and over again. And I think that this is the kind of album where if I were in high school, which I'm not, I feel like I am sometimes. Although when I was in high school, I don't know if I would have been cool enough to listen to Flying Lotus. Who knows? Sorry, weird edit there. Someone called and I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. So like, when I was in high school, I'd love listening to weird music and like get little weird like lines just stuck in my head. And I bet if you listen to this album a lot, you listen to it a lot because it's great and it's rich and it's textured and all these things. But then there's all these weird things that are said and are repeated. And so on this song, Yellow Belly, she just goes, my shoes are untied. He says I'm tripping. And I could just imagine making that joke with my friends in high school. Just like a kind of like sentence that gets stuck in your head. Or later, he got titties in his face. She just says that over and over again. I don't know. It's the sort of charm of this album that I bet repeat listenings. Let me know, too, if you're like a Flying Lotus fan, a Flanotimus fan, whatever it is. Let me know like what it's like. Like, do you get super into his albums and like just quote his stuff all the time out of context? And then, after this sort of weird, kind of hip-hop, kind of soul, weird fest, he goes into just a straight hip-hop song. Black Balloons Reprise with Denzel Curry. And this is just a great hip-hop song. Just a great pulsing hip-hop song. It's got that drum beat from Synthetic Substitution by Melvin Bliss, which if you don't know has been featured in like 800 hip-hop songs. And it's just this pulsing, awesome rap song, just straight up rap, right? You just hear this and you go like, yeah, this is hip-hop. 1 second. Right? Just straight up great hip hop. But in the background, there's these like slow voices going on in the back. And then when they get to the chorus, it ends up being like super epic sounding. With like these chorus, this chorus going over. Right here. Right here. 1 second. 1 second. Wait a second. Here it is. Here's the epic chorus. The chorus coming up, the weird voice in the background, the Bliss drum beat. And that's everything that Flying Lotus can do, like hip hop and like soul and bring it up and break it down and break it apart. And then the next track features David Lynch. And it's a great song that features David Lynch talking. Okay, David Lynch, the filmmaker who made Dune, Fire Walk with Me, Twin Peaks, Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, whatever. All those great weird movies. So he just tells like a story that's a standard David Lynch suburban dystopia story about a fire is coming. And then Flying Lotus brings in an awesome drum beat that goes along with David Lynch's nasally voice. A fire is coming. A fire is coming. And she picks up the yellow phone off the wall. Very David Lynchy. But then I realized this whole album is like a David Lynch movie. It's like really cool and super stylized and weaving together all these influences and psychedelic. And at certain times you think you get it and then it disappears. And if you're being cynical, you can say, I don't get it because there's nothing to get. It's just a bunch of gobbledygook messed together by someone who's trying to act deep. Or if you're more sympathetic to the artist, you could say they're working on a different plane, where perhaps understanding, coming up with an actual answer as to what it means is superfluous. Like what actually matters is your interpretation and your experience with it and the places where that takes you. So I'm just going to do my 3-word title. I was going to call it Fractured Funk, but I guess I'll call it David Lynch Funk, because that's kind of what this is. Then the next track is Inside Your Home, which just ends up sounding like prog jazz, like Frank Zappa style. That's twice in a week with Frank Zappa. Right? Listen to this. I don't know. Okay, so it all goes together. So there's the 5 songs, Flying Lotus, all together in one. It's a very good album, very together. It's 1 hour and 7 minutes, and I just played you like 15, 20 minutes of it, and that perfectly represents what this album can do. Of anything that I've heard in the last decade, I actually put it closest as like an instrumental to Pimp a Butterfly, by Kendrick Lamar, and like the music is just so genreless, but yet it has a sort of overall funk 70s LA vibe to it, but you can't quite just pigeonhole it and put it in one place. So anyways, my daughter's getting off the bus soon, so I don't want to be doing my video when she gets off the bus. But I will be playing Flying Lotus for her when I get the album. So, there you go. Until next time, there's the camera.